Don't just live for tomorrow, or just live in yesterday. Just be glad for all you have that's in today. And though you've come through many obstacles.
Hey everyone, Connie here, and welcome to my blind reaction to Fire Force, episode 5. So last time we met Princess Hibana, the chief of, I believe it's company, that's the word. I was going to say studio for some reason. The chief of Company 5, I believe it is. And she is just this big dom type of controlling character. She's extremely, it seems, I'm wording this terribly. It seems that like she very extremely loves to dominate others, not only the Infernals, but her other workers in the company as well. It seems that she likes to use people as a human chair and as literal stepping stones. And she just has this energy she exudes. It's like, I talked about it last time, but it's like, you know, how there's just those characters in media who, especially in a lot of fan culture, whether it's in anime, video games, yada yada, there's just those characters, those tall, big female characters who people just really get a liking for. It's kind of like a fetish in its own right, and not to say that in a negative way at all. But it's the same kind of situation that was with Lady Dimitrescu of Resident Evil Village. Just, of course, obviously, while Princess Hibana is clearly tall, she's not that tall. But we see that it's the same kind of energy. She has like this extremely domineering energy that people just latched onto and are like really like wanting her to dominate them. Like Markiplier puts it, it's a power thing. And there are people who like that, who latch onto that, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it's just, I noticed that it's very similar in that kind of feel. But last episode, like, we also got an Infernal who kept his sentience, which is like, we keep seeing all these different types of Infernals, not just the regular, like, mindless zombie, basically. But we see, like, we've seen an Infernal who wasn't aggressive, who just sat there and waited for his death. And now we're seeing an Infernal who is completely sentient. This killer, this former firefighter who murdered people, and is now an Infernal and is going crazy and is a massive threat. So Shinra and them in Company 8 are after him, but Company 5 decides to come into play too, even though the area is not in their jurisdiction. And they got involved, and Obi agreed to let them take the Infernal to study it as long as they shared their information with him, which you know they're not going to do. So it's like, I'm wondering where this is going to go, how prevalent of a character she's going to be in comparison to, like, the Company 1 captain. And it's very clear, like, this is the kind of stuff Obi is investigating with the other companies. It's like these kinds of people, like the Company 1 captain, like Princess Hibana. This is the reason why Company 8 was created. Their goal of trying to find out what the other companies are doing and all. So yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting going forward in that regard. Um, we also had a little bit about Shinra and Arthur helping out some of the mascots for the Fire Force and all. But that was, let's be honest, extremely minor and unimportant. But I'm interested to see where this goes because last episode was definitely one of the better ones so far. I'd say probably second best after the first episode. But it definitely reignited, I guess, pun intended, my interest in the series after a few episodes had been not anywhere near as good for me. So let us just get into this and hope for the best. So when the screen fades to black, pause this redirect and go to the description below. Follow the link to the reaction, and after you watch it, come back here to the redirect and resume play. Because after it fades to black and then fades back in, everything from that point forward will be my afterthoughts and will contain spoilers to the episode. So, that being said, thank you so much for tuning in, and I will see you at the reaction. And we are back, and we'll begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So, it seems like this series is finding its groove in part thanks to Princess Hibana. Basically introducing her and introducing this, I guess you could kind of say, feud between companies 5 and 8 is definitely saving this series for the time being from the issues I was having with it. It's starting to feel like what I felt in episode 1 again. It's starting to actually like get good, really good again. And that excites me. So we see here in this episode that Iris, Sister Iris, has connection to Princess Hibana. And we see that Princess Hibana used to be a nun as well. But based on what she says to Iris, it can be presumed that something happened to her to make her turn against being a nun and caused her to become extremely aggressive and sadistic and just kind of terrible. So it's interesting. It's interesting that there's clearly more depth to her character, and it's very clear that at some point she's going to end up being redeemed, or at least becoming more friendly. It's very obvious, because they're making a point of telling us that there's more to her character, and with this connection with Iris and everything, it's super blatantly obvious that they're doing something with her. So I'm excited to find out what that is, for sure. But after Sister Iris goes to meet with Princess Hibana, to try and just reason with her and everything, she ends up being held there, while the rest of the company comes to rescue her. And it ensues in this giant set of battles between all these forces, and it's really cool. We get to see Maki and Hinawa work together. We get to see Arthur take on the Infernal from before, actually, and so on and so forth. And it's definitely building to the big confrontation with Princess Hibana herself. So I'm very interested to see where all of that goes. And just overall, what they do to stop her. if it's going to be Shinra, if it's going to be Obi, who we haven't seen come into play during this raid yet, um, or if it's going to be a combination of multiple of them. I'm genuinely curious to see where all of that goes. Now, there was some notable fan service in this episode, um, but I actually felt like the fan service in this episode had a point. Like, notably so. Like, we saw Sister Iris at first. She's sitting there crying, thinking about Princess Hibana and all. And we see her, she's sitting by the fountain and she's soaked. Her outfit is soaked. You see a lot of cleavage and shit because of it. And it's like, yeah, it's very clearly fan service, but it's also very clear that she's sad about something, and it very well depicts that through physical imagery. It shows her sorrow, her just feeling of being drowned in that pain. And which is why we also see her like wave Shinra's questioning off and walk away so quickly when he does confront her and ask her if she's okay. And then we also see later on in the episode, Princess Hibana burns off a good portion of Sister Iris's clothing, again, leading to cleavage and a lot of skin showing and a lot of fan service. And again, this has a point because as we hear, Princess Hibana is upset that Sister Iris would come dressed like that. She clearly has some issue with the nuns that she used to be part of. And she's clearly upset by seeing that outfit. So she burns it mostly off to aggressively show how much she hates it. I think it's pretty obvious that there's something more going on here just from that alone. And again, the fan service here is very much ingrained into the story. It actually makes sense. It works. This is the kind of fan service I'm fine with when it actually has meaning, when it has a point. I'm not as big a fan of fan service when it's just for the sake of itself, when it feels completely unnatural and just entirely for the sake of sexiness, basically. Like the one girl from Company 1, the fan service centering around her felt in episode 3, I think it was. That felt unnatural. But this other stuff, if it's fine, it feels very natural, it feels very normal, even. Well, not normal, but you know what I mean. So this is okay. I'm good with this. As long as it serves a purpose, as long as it has this valid intent that works for the story and the characters. So we get to see some cool stuff. The entire thing, though, about Arthur just holding his sword in the wrong hand is stupid as fuck. Like, yeah, I know we're supposed to see Arthur as just dumb. This huge dumbass. But I think he would notice was holding the sword in the wrong hand. And to not only not notice something like that for so long, but for that to make that big of a difference in his ability is ridiculous. It's ludicrous. Like it's not like writing your name with a pencil. This is swinging a sword and using a weapon and everything. Yeah, it's not going to be as effective, of course. But it's basically like if his normal skill level is like a 10, just as an example, he would be literally going down to a 1 just by switching to his non-dominant hand. And I just feel like that's not realistic. I feel like it would be more like a 7, a 6 at absolute least. But he went down so drastically in his skill level that it's not believable. It's just not. Meanwhile, we get to see more of Hinawa in this episode, and we get actually some interesting focus on his abilities. So, like Maki, he's only a second generation, which means he can control flames but not create them. So, because of this, he uses a gun, which he has specially trained with, to be able to control the explosive flames upon firing. This can allow him to control the speed and strength of the bullets so that he can actually shoot a gun and hit people with non-lethal force. But it also allows him to shoot bullets in a certain way to where if they create sparks on whatever they hit, he can control those sparks and cause the bullets to ricochet, which is really interesting and fascinating. We also get to see other people's abilities too, such as with Bubblegum, as I'm calling him. He can blow bubblegum bubbles that he fills with explosive gas. The bubblegum is non-oxidated, so when he controls the bubbles because of the explosive gas, and when he causes the bubbles to burst and the oxygen mixes in, it creates an explosion, which is really fascinating. It's a really fascinating ability, but this dude is just so fucking dumb. It's like this is the second time he's gotten owned in 2 episodes. Just completely wasted. And it's like, my god, this dude is just a dumbass. Like, his ability is cool, but he's so dumb. But like I said, we haven't seen Obi during this mission yet. So I'm wondering when he's going to come in. Is he going to end up taking on Hibana since they're both the captains? I guess we'll have to find out next episode because did kind of leave off on a cliffhanger. Did kind of leave off without closing out this this episode's story. So, tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Fire Force. And yeah, just again, I loved it. I thought this was fantastic, and I definitely think that this series is hitting its stride. And I would say again, just like I did last episode, this was probably my favorite episode since the first. It actually beat out last episode. I really like Princess Hibana. I really like just this fight between the companies. I like that we find out that Princess Hibana has apparently figured out the truth behind the combustions. And just this depth that they're giving to Sister Iris as well with this episode. It's just, I really like this stuff, and I can't wait to see where they go with it. With the depth with Sister Iris, with the depth that they're clearly planning for Princess Hibana. I really want to see where they go with it all. So, like I said, tell me your thoughts down in the comments below, and thank you all so much for tuning in. For now, I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.